Hey everyone, welcome back to British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. Today's episode is one we know a lot of you need to hear, because it's personal. It's emotional. And honestly, it's something every language learner wrestles with at some point.
Yep. We're talking about shame. The kind of shame that sneaks in when you compare your accent to someone else's. When you forget a word mid-sentence. When someone doesn't understand you the first time and you instantly think, I must sound stupid.
We've been there. All of us. Whether you're a beginner or advanced, that voice creeps in and tells you, you're not good enough. But here's the thing, your accent, your mistakes, and your current level, none of that is something to be ashamed of.
Nope. In fact, it's proof that you're doing something brave. You're literally stepping outside the comfort zone of your first language and choosing to communicate in another one. That takes courage. That takes guts.
And let's just say it out loud, having an accent is not a flaw. It's a sign of richness, of experience, of your identity. It tells a story. The shame? That comes from unrealistic expectations that we pick up from the outside world, textbooks, social media, even people around us.
Yeah, and we start to internalize those voices. We start to think, I'll only be taken seriously if I sound like a native. Or, if I make a mistake, people will laugh at me. And then we carry that around like a weight that silences us.
And you know what's even heavier than the grammar rules and pronunciation drills? That pressure to be perfect. It crushes your curiosity. It blocks your progress. It makes you afraid to speak, even when you want to.
Right? And that's what we're here to shift. Because English doesn't belong only to native speakers. It belongs to you too. No matter what your accent is. No matter how fluent you are. The fact that you show up and try. That's already powerful.
So today, let's start loosening the grip shame has on us. Let's question the idea that English has to sound a certain way to be good. Let's explore where this shame really comes from, and how to let it go. Bit by bit.
Because at the end of the day, you're not here to impress anyone. You're here to express yourself. And that matters way more than sounding polished or perfect.
And you know, Emily, sometimes that shame gets planted way back. Like, maybe it started in school when someone laughed at the way you pronounced a word. Or maybe a teacher corrected you in front of the whole class and it just stuck. Those moments don't seem like a big deal to others, but they shape the way we talk to ourselves for years.
Yes. And what happens is that you don't just remember the moment, you start building an entire story around it. I'm not good at English. I always mess up. Other people speak better than me. It becomes your inner voice, and it holds you back even when you do know the words or the grammar.
Exactly. And that's why we wanted to have this conversation. Because the shame you feel isn't about English, it's about what you've learned to believe about yourself in English. That's the real issue. It's not your level. It's the lens you're using to look at your own progress.
And Nick, I think one of the most healing things you can do is simply notice that voice. Like, next time you say something in English and immediately think, that sounded bad. Try pausing and asking, where did that thought come from? Was it your voice, or someone else's voice that became yours?
That's a powerful shift. Because the moment you can separate your real self from that harsh inner critic, you start to take your power back. You can literally say, hey, I'm learning. Mistakes are part of it. I don't have to be ashamed.
And let's be honest, people connect with authenticity, not perfection. Nobody feels emotionally close to someone who sounds like a grammar robot. They feel close when you speak with heart. When you're real. When your voice shakes a little, but you speak anyway.
That's what makes language beautiful. Not the flawless pronunciation. Not the perfect vocabulary. But the humanness in it. The pauses, the accent, the vulnerability, it all adds up to something deeply honest, Something only you can offer.
And when you start to own that instead of hiding it, everything changes. You become more confident, not because you're fluent, but because you're free. Free to make mistakes. Free to sound different. Free to take up space in a language that maybe once made you feel small.
And look, if you're listening and thinking, yeah, but I still feel embarrassed, that's okay. This stuff takes time. You don't have to flip a switch overnight. It's a slow unlearning. It's choosing compassion over criticism, one sentence at a time.
Right? And honestly, every time you choose to speak despite the fear, that's you rewriting the story. That's you saying, my voice matters. My message matters. And I don't need to sound like anyone else to be worthy of being heard.
Yes. Let's keep going deeper into this. Let's unpack why we carry so much pressure to sound right, and how we can start replacing that pressure with something gentler, something kinder, something true.
You know what's interesting, Nick? A lot of the people I talk to say the same thing. They'll tell me they know English, they understand it, they've studied it for years, but the moment they open their mouth, all that knowledge just disappears. And when we talk more, it's never really about vocabulary. It's about shame. About fear.
Exactly. It's like their brain goes into survival mode. And that voice inside, the one that says, you're going to embarrass yourself, suddenly gets really loud. That voice isn't telling the truth, it's just repeating the past. Repeating rejection. It's trying to protect you, but it's keeping you small.
And honestly, I think sometimes people don't realize how much emotional work is tied into language learning. It's not just a technical skill. It's personal. Deeply personal. You're not just learning how to form a sentence. You're learning how to see yourself differently while speaking that sentence.
Right. And a lot of that shame comes from the belief that our accent, or our mistakes, mean we're not smart. Or not capable. But that's such a harmful belief. Having an accent means you're bilingual. That's powerful. And making mistakes means you're trying. That takes courage.
And what if we started treating our accent the way we treat a smile line or a scar? Like, it tells a story. It shows that we've lived, that we've grown, that we've stretched ourselves. It's not something to hide, it's something to own.
I love that metaphor. Because honestly, every time you speak English with vulnerability, you're telling the world, I'm here. I'm growing. I'm not giving up on myself. And if that's not something to be proud of, I don't know what is.
Me too. And here's the thing, nobody else is thinking about your grammar the way you are. Most people. They're just listening for your meaning. Your tone. Your energy. They want to connect with you, not correct you.
Yep. And if you wait until you feel perfect to speak, you'll wait forever. But if you start speaking now, even with the fear, even with the mistakes, you'll build something way more valuable than fluency. You'll build resilience.
And that's what we're really after, right? Not just flawless language. But freedom. Confidence. A voice that isn't controlled by past embarrassment, but fueled by present courage. A voice that says, this is me. I may not sound like you, but I'm proud of where I am.
And little by little, that voice inside you changes. It stops saying, I'm not good enough, and starts saying, I'm getting better. That's how healing happens. Through small moments of self-kindness. Through choosing to speak even when your voice shakes.
And we hope that today, this conversation is one of those moments for you. A moment where you can say, I'm allowed to exist in English, exactly as I am, mistakes and all. A moment where maybe, just maybe, you start letting go of that old shame and start showing up fully.
And you know what's really wild? Sometimes we carry shame from situations that happened years ago, like one bad experience where someone laughed at our pronunciation, or corrected us in front of a group, and that moment stays with us. It builds a story in our mind that says, see? This is why you shouldn't speak. And we replay that scene every time we open our mouths, even when no one's laughing anymore.
That's so real, Nick. And healing that takes time, but one of the best tools is awareness. Noticing when that old story is playing, and gently saying to yourself, that was then. This is now. You get to rewrite the narrative. Just because you felt ashamed before doesn't mean you have to carry that shame into every conversation you have today.
Exactly. And the powerful thing is, every time you speak up, you're proving that old belief wrong. You're creating new evidence that you can communicate, that people do understand you, that you don't have to hide.
Yes. And even on the days when you feel shaky, or awkward or tired of struggling, those days count too. Showing up for yourself on a hard day is one of the strongest forms of self-love. You don't have to be positive or perfect all the time. You just have to keep showing up.
And here's something I really want everyone listening to hear: you are not alone in this. Not even a little. There are millions of people learning English who feel this exact same emotional weight. You're part of something much bigger than yourself, a global community of people who are trying, who are healing, who are becoming.
That's so important to remember. Especially because learning a language can feel isolating sometimes. Like you're the only one who's struggling. But the truth is, most people are struggling silently. And if we talked more openly about that struggle, about the feelings, the fears, the doubt, we'd all feel a lot less alone.
Exactly. And the moment we realize that, the shame starts to lose its power. Because shame thrives in silence, in secrecy. But when we speak it out loud, even to ourselves, it softens. It gives way to self-compassion. And that's where growth really begins.
And that's what this whole journey is about, right? It's not just about mastering English. It's about reclaiming your voice. About standing in your truth, even if your grammar isn't perfect, even if your accent is strong. Your voice matters, just as it is.
Yeah, and when you start seeing your voice as worthy, just as it is, something shifts. You stop chasing perfection and start practicing presence. You're no longer speaking to impress, you're speaking to connect. And that's when language becomes real. That's when English becomes not just a skill, but a part of who you are: messy, emotional, powerful.
And even when it's messy, it's authentic. I think sometimes we underestimate the power of that. You don't need to sound like a native speaker to make someone feel something. You don't need perfect sentences to share your story. You just need you. Your voice, your honesty, your intention.
You know, when people say, don't be afraid to make mistakes, they usually mean grammar mistakes. But there's another kind of fear, of emotional exposure. Of saying something that shows too much of what we're feeling. And I get it. That's vulnerable. But the crazy thing is, that's what draws people in. Vulnerability connects us more than flawless speech ever could.
Absolutely. The people who truly listen, who really care, they won't walk away because your pronunciation wasn't perfect. They'll lean in because you showed up. Because you were brave enough to speak, even when your voice trembled.
And every time you do that, you build emotional strength. Not just linguistic ability, but emotional fluency, too. You start saying, I may struggle, but I still deserve to speak. And wow, how powerful is that?
Exactly. You're not just improving your English, you're learning to be kinder to yourself, to trust yourself, to believe that your voice matters. And that's what this journey is really about. Yes, we want you to grow your vocabulary and master grammar, but more than that, we want you to feel free in your voice. Free to be imperfect. Free to be real. Free to be you.
So if today was a tough day, if you stumbled over words or felt like giving up, take a breath. You showed up. You tried. And that matters more than anything. Language learning isn't a straight road, it's full of detours, emotions, setbacks, and breakthroughs. And you're walking it with courage.
Remember, this podcast, British Accent Podcast, is here to remind you that you're not alone in this. We believe in your journey. We believe in you. Keep speaking, keep feeling, and most importantly, keep being gentle with yourself along the way.
We'll be right here, cheering you on every step of the way. Until next time, take care of your heart, your mind, and your words.
And remember, your English journey is not just about the language. It's about you coming back to yourself. See you soon.